awesome Kenston Henderson, and both of us are achievements in the speaking realm, and glory be to our Lord Jesus Christ, TEDx speakers. But the conversation that we want to have tonight is all around active racial reconciliation, and how do we win having necessary conversations moving forward. I know some folks think anytime we use the word racial and anything related to the word racial, you always want to feel like you get into a confrontation. But the way that we want to have this conversation is, and I always say, and there's all some really good books out there, Crucial Conversations and different things like that. But I always come back to these conversations are necessary. And Kenston being this was actually his TEDx speech topic, and his talk and his idea around what does it look like to be respectful? What does it mean to lead with empathy, and then grow a level of maturity in having these conversations? And me and my background, always talking about leading with our values. And before we jump into the racial reconciliation stuff, I love how our background, we are Christians, we are believers in Jesus Christ, but how people, and I love Pastor Daniels had a post yesterday where he was talking about the theology of it, and talking about, which Jesus are you preaching, the Jesus in your head or the one in the Bible? And I'm not going to take his thunder. Go see that on IG. But I'm in my fatigues on purpose as a veteran, and I got some sentinels up there from the Buffalo Soldiers behind me. But as a Black man in America, and as a veteran, as a patriot, the reason why I volunteered to serve, and the reason why I volunteered to put myself on the line, is for people to have freedoms that we experience today. But I am a true believer in understanding that those freedoms don't look the same for me because of what I look like. And a picture is still worth 1,000 words. And I still fear for my life. I don't think first I'm a veteran and the police officer is going to respect me. I think about all my brothers and sisters who have to make sure that they remember the talk, and make sure their hands are at 10 and 2, and to make sure that they're being respectful, and to make sure that their ID is already in their hand, and to make sure they don't make any sudden moves. All of that is processing, but I understand that's not a reality for everybody. And, we have this young man who, and shout out to everybody who pushed the movement in doing their 2.23 miles today and getting outdoors. And I run with Mod. And for me, that's disheartening, because unconsciously, bro, and you'll laugh at me for this, and Japri does every time I do it, unconsciously, but consciously, I wear a bright yellow jacket anytime I go outside to go run. And most of my military folks out there, they'll say, oh, you're still practicing road safety and making sure people, no, I'm not. I'm just making sure that nobody assumes that I'm not running where I'm not supposed to be. That's really what if somebody rolls up on me, yes, they like, he's where he's supposed to be, because there ain't nobody running outside in that get up that's going to do nothing crazy. Who wears a bright yellow running jacket in the neighborhood? Like, nobody. So I belong here, right? And it's crazy enough, like I just acknowledged with everything that just happened over the past week, like I did that on purpose. Like I got a veteran tag on my plate. So if you pull me over, you know who you pulling over. Like, and those things are on purpose, and I was very thoughtful in how I did it. But when we talk about active racial reconciliation and we begin to have these necessary conversations, bro, help us out, man. First, I want to know how and why you came up with that topic as a TEDx talk, but let's start there.
Listen. So it just really came from being tired and sick and tired of people being afraid of the topic of race. We all know that there's racism taking place around in the world, It's not just the United States, but it's around the world. However, we won't sit still enough, sit in a seat of uncomfortability to have necessary conversations of why it's taking place, of why are we still dealing with this in the 21st century, not, being afraid to call out our family members, our friends, our co-workers who simply are blatant about hate towards another person or group of people based on their skin tone.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to put a talk together that would to help people have, I call it winning conversations, where you will be uncomfortable at the beginning. However, you can be more comfortable as you have the conversation. The reason why race or racism is such a scary word to people who have never experienced it,
Yeah.
who have never had to step out of their bubble to see someone else's point of view. And that's why, within the talk, it talks about having that empathy, being able to look at somebody else's point of view, somebody else's experience, more than just yours. Um, there's so many people who've gone through, hate crimes or bias simply because of their skin tone. And, but I think people are starting to wake up a little bit.
You think? So I love it that, you, again, it always seems like we have to go first, right? In these conversations, even though that we're more times than not, we're not the ones who are uncomfortable having the conversation, because last time I checked, regardless of all the skin products there are on the market now, I can't scrub this off. Every time I walk out the door, I look like this. My hair might be a little different, the beard might be a little longer like yours, but I can't scrub the pigment away. And for me, it always seems like, again, I'll speak for me, that anytime you have to have a necessary conversation with somebody, if you're the one leading the conversation, you always invariably, and again, I'm speaking in generalizations, you try to soften the blow for the other person, right? And I know it wasn't you. Don't give people outs. And I think what was awesome about your TED talk, and what's awesome that you have those values on your shirt, is that break down empathy for people, because in these situations, when we begin to have racial conversations, I think people lead with sympathy and not empathy.
Yeah.
So help educate the people on the difference between empathy and sympathy.
So I'll just give empathy. So empathy really takes place when you consciously make a mental shift from being defensive to actually validating someone else's lived experiences. It's you validating their lived experiences. And you want to know, you have a heart to really want to know, why did you have that experience? Like, you truly care enough to want to know that, wow, that young man got killed by two grown men as he was jogging his normal day-to-day, and you step outside of whatever you're doing at this present moment and ask, why did it happen?
Yeah.
And listen to someone who may have the news coverage, actually going and do the research, as we have access, to see why it happened.
Yeah. So
without making judgment, or making up your own story based on your experiences of life, on your bubble, in your bubble, stepping out of your bubble. That's what empathy is. It's stepping outside of your bubble into someone else's.
Yeah. and it goes to, and you were, I think you were about to go there, in the fact that you say step out of yourself, right? And all of us have this inner storyteller, right? It's the unconscious bias that we all lead with, we all survive with. Our experiences, lived experiences, to in interactions, and we carry this every single place we go, right? Me and you grew up in the same household, but you experienced our parents differently. All right, it's the simplest form. You could be a twin to somebody, and you experience the world differently. And again, empathy is holding the space, but also holding the space in a very respectful manner to say, I'm not going to degrade what you experienced, but I also need you to be self-aware and self-managed enough to calm your emotions, to be able to articulate and communicate why the things you experienced are so jarring for you, and why they moved you to make certain decisions. And to these gentlemen's point, right? And you got those patriotic people out there. So let me bust you right in between the eyes, patriotic people. There's still a 1%. I'll max it out at 1%. 1% of the U.S. population that is serving or has served. So let's be clear. Again, 1% of the entire population has served or is currently serving. So don't get on this God bless America and all the rest of this stuff for me, because last time I checked, nobody rewrote the document and said that I hold these truths to be self-evident, and I'm still in the category with livestock. But I've served my country, and I'm in less than 1%. So be clear. If you haven't put yourself on the line, whether it's civil service, whether it's holding a state office or something right there where you serve your community in a capacity to actually put yourself or your community in a place for change, miss me with the patriotic stuff, because you will lose that battle every single time. I'm going to tell you right now. So back to what we talking about, active racial reconciliation.
As I digress.
I digress, right? I had to pull that back. I had to throw that right out there for anybody who wanted to jump on there and say this is unpatriotic and we don't have all the facts of the case and all the rest of that stuff. At the end of the day, I served so that all people would be treated and respected enough to be human. And this is a humanity conversation. This is a humanity conversation, right? One of the departments that I served in, we both served in, is called human resources, right? We as a job, as a mantle that was bestowed upon us as HR professionals, is to think about the people affected by the decisions of policy, procedures, or anything that the organization was doing. Any action we were taking had to be thought through the lens of the overall body of humanity within that organization. And as we live in the United States of America, are we leading with humanity? Humanity as it pertains to good, decent, moral in today's standing, not when I hold these truths to be self-evident, 1776, but where there were still active slaves. Not that truths to be self-evident, but today's, after the Civil Rights Act and all the rest of that stuff, where you're supposed to see me like a human being, right? And I think that's really what this is all about, is the conversation is that we can be literally, me and you as minority men can literally be the reason why you can pull a trigger so fast and the reason why you can abuse me so fast and begin to creatively flip a switch in your head that you did right, was that you don't see me as human.
Yeah.
And you see me as something less than.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And that's where a lot of the problem is that people have that inferior mindset that they say to themselves, my life means more than them.
Yeah.
Like, where did that happen? When did you get that mindset of you're lesser than me? Where did that happen? Is that competition gone too far?
Yeah. So Melissa asked a great question, right? Who do you address or how do you address those who, you know, lead with the apathy and they feel like, you know, there will be no change, so I'm not going to get involved. When we talk about active racial reconciliation,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. So with any, and I'll put it like this: for any type of change to take place, people have to want it to happen.
Yeah.
People actually have to lay down themselves, um, their bubble. Again, got to bust out that thing and really want to change. You know,
Yeah.
I was doing I was leading a session on cultural awareness, and the question that I asked the class was, would you stand up for a fellow employee if the other coworkers were having bad jokes about uh, bad racial jokes? And one person said they would not do it. They would not stick their neck out for someone. And I said, well, why is that? Well, because I've done something similar to that, and I got in trouble. I got in trouble. I said, you
By
got
who?
in trouble?
By who?
By who? And the HR person was in the room, and I said, he said, by who? Well, I mean, I got a family to feed. I got this to do.
There we go.
I don't want to
There we
rock the
go.
boat.
There we
And I
go.
said, are you kidding me?
There we go. So it's these fictitious fears and these fictitious storylines that people are able to help themselves rationalize what is opposite of what they say they believe. And so that's why I love Dr. Darius's point. Which Jesus are you talking about? You talking about the one in your head or the one in the Bible? And again, when we talk about humanity, are we talking about today that we are a country that is a melting pot and has been for 100 years, right? Let's just do 100 years. We've been a melting pot, and we've had all these different cultures in here. And no, when you say that you respect me, when you say that you lead with integrity and you have all, you want to be collaborative, is that just a corporate word, or is that who you are? Because last time I checked, you cannot separate and dissect yourself to be different people in different scenarios. But people have professionally and personally done that so often that they've convinced themselves that they're good at it. And all you are is perpetrating a fraud, and you're not authentic. And guess what? This next generation, Gen Z, is watching this happen. Gen Z is experiencing this. And the reason why, you want to know why they don't want to work for your organization? Because they don't trust you. They don't trust you to do and be what you said your wall is saying. And they're going to hold you accountable to your values. In the first sign that you are going against what you said you were all about, they have no problem quitting you. So don't call me and don't call my brother when you want to try to figure out your $15 million retention problem. Don't call us. Don't call us, because I want to know, if you call me, tell me every last person with a E something in front of their title is going to be in the room when I show up, because it's a leader problem. This is not an individual contributor problem. This is a leader problem from the top. Inverted pyramid. Turn your pyramid upside down and figure out how you and your leaders are going to be the resources for your organization to get better. That's really what this is about, man. We're having a human conversation.
That's like when, diversity and inclusion, the topic comes up, and it's a comical topic. It's starting to get better as leaders get better. Right? Because you remember how when it first came out, diversity came out, it was about numbers.
Yep.
It was about getting the numbers.
It's still about numbers, man. Let's not kid ourselves.
Well, again, so depending on who the leader is,
Let's be
It could
clear.
still be just about numbers.
Yeah, I got you.
Right? Because my whole theory on when I'm talking to organizations is inclusion has to be there before diversity can
Thank
be.
you. Thank you. Thank
Like,
you.
I'm coining it now, inclusion and diversity,
Yeah.
because so many leaders are getting it wrong
Yeah.
by thinking that, yeah, let's get people in here, and then they leave after a month or two.
Yeah. I liken diversity to the Pringles commercial where they have the 3 different flavors and the guy's like, I could stack these. That's diversity. You can stack Pringles on top of each other and you got you a different Pringle, right? That's what diversity does for your organization, right? So for me, you hit the nail on the head, man, with inclusion, right? Because inclusion is a human word, right? That means you see me, that means you hear me, that means you value me, that means that you want me to be involved in this conversation. And again, what I like to tell people, that again, some coaching clients and some other folks, is just because you got included doesn't mean that they're going to take your answer every time. You're just allowed to come to the table. That's all. Inclusion is being invited to the party and also being asked to dance, but also like a friend of mine said, it's also being able to have some say so in the playlist, right?
Yeah.
So you're not gonna make me dance to some stuff I've never heard before because I can't catch the beat, right? I can't catch the beat. So who came up with this playlist, right? It's like going up to the DJ and like, DJ, can you play this? Can you play this next? Can you play the, DMX? I want DMX to drop next, right? And the DJ was like, I got you, right? It's being able to add to the playlist, right? And I think when you talk about active racial, like I love the word active, right? Because again, I'm a huge actions over ideas always win, right? And again, active racial reconciliation leading you to have winning conversations.
Yeah.
Winning conversations, meaning if you're having a conversation, that's an actual action. So it's one thing to talk about it. You put people in a room and then let's put some framework around some things, right? And it's called a theory. Then you test it and it's called, it's a pilot. And then yeah, man, you actually got to put one foot in front of the other. Go figure. But for you, how do we get people to engage, right, with this conversation? Because again, here you go, folks. I'm gonna say it for you out loud. We know you're uncomfortable. All right, we said it for you, so we don't need to lead. We don't need to lead with that. We don't need to lead with that. Call. Just pick up the phone and call. Email. All right. If you don't call, you don't want to hear our voices over the phone yet, because you're still trying to work some stuff out within yourself. Email. Right. We're available for that. But how would you start off? Take me through a needs analysis, right? I'm the uncomfortable leader in the room. And I said, Kenston, I'm really nervous that you're here right now. And we don't know where to start. Where do we start? Where do we start, Kenston?
So we gotta look at yourself. I'm gonna hold the mirror right in front of you. What are your biases? What are your biases? We're just going to get straight to it. What are your biases towards people that don't look like you? What has been your interactions with people, diverse people who don't look like you, haven't came from the same background as you? Are you comfortable when they're in the room?
How can you test that out? How can you test that out?
How can I test that out?
Yeah, man. Because again, in theory, right? Because again, I'm trying to figure out the human in my head versus the human I'm being.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm trying to figure out the human in my head, like in my head, I'm saying I'm being respectful of everybody because you know what? You get a cookie because I invited you today. And I thought about Kenston. We need to make sure Kenston's in the room. So how do I? Because again, when you talk about diverse, I can invite every diverse person in the room. I can invite women. I appreciate y'all for being willing to lead the charge in a lot of cases across spectrums. Our women are getting super educated, but our brothers that are priests in the home and different things are supposed to be priests at home and leading the charge in the community and these other organizations. Like, how do we what can you actually test out in a room, like in the moment, right? What's your go-to question for people? Like, I know you were trying to lead into it, but you didn't want to give it to them. And I want you to give your go-to question around this thing. Like you said, uncomfortable. That was real cute. But what's your go-to question? I know you got a go-to question.
I mean, is really getting down to it. Do you have any racial biases?
Yeah. What if they say no?
If they say no, then let's take an assessment.
I've taken one. I've taken the Harvard thing.
And what did it say?
I mean, it said what I thought it would say.
What did it say?
It said, I have a bias, a moderate bias towards, my race.
How many Black friends do you have?
You see, you're not gonna trap me. You're not gonna trap me. I heard that I heard a comedian say that, and you're gonna peg me as a racist if I answer that question.
I'm just asking because it tells a lot. It tells your comfortability level.
I got you. Okay, so you get in the first 5 minutes, man. You start asking them to break down their assessments and all that.
Because here's the thing, because I was brought into a meeting by a senior leader, and they said, Kenston, I want some more diversity. I said, well, show me your current team now, your current leadership team.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody looked like that leader.
Yeah.
And I said, so are you willing to make some leadership shifts, changes?
I always say it, and I'm glad you said it. The W word.
The
W word.
What W word?
Willing.
Yeah. Are you willing to make some changes in your leadership team?
Yeah. So go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So so we quickly find out they weren't ready to make changes.
So and I love the reason why I will love the word willing, right, is because that speaks to where you're at. Right. That speaks to and I love that Melissa always makes herself available for any of these conversations, and she's a beast in and of herself. So we got to make sure we add Melissa to this next time and pull her into the conversation, because she has because marketing background and some other stuff, and she from a aesthetics side of it, she literally can plug in some other things. But when you talk about the willingness of a person to walk down that road of change, it puts them on the hook, right? It puts them on the hook to owe something to the conversation, right? And I believe when we talk about the human in our head versus the human we're being, it goes to what's next, right? And when you say, what's the one thing you're willing to do differently to make sure that this conversation is not being shelved? Because that's the issue, right? We get all hyped up. We get all ramped up. Over and over again. We get ramped up for these things. And then we're on to the next post. And it goes silent. It goes cold for a couple months. And then something may pop in a timeline, a memory, and then you go back and check on something. But how do we begin? Because again, this can't keep happening, right? It at some point, somebody's generation has to stop this, right? And all the social media and all the access that we have today, we're still experiencing it, right? And so how do we partner as a community to do this the right way?
Yeah. So I just completed the workbook, the Winning Conversations workbook that will go along with my TEDx. And in that workbook, the workbook was made specifically for groups, churches, organizations to have these necessary conversations. And so I have a facilitator's guide where whoever's leading the discussion will be able to lead with confidence. They get a call with me to go over the facilitator's guide but then they'll have participant guides for their participants when they leave their groups and leave their organizations. Or of course you can call me and I'll come in and lead those conversations, being in, working in training development for over, 16 years and so forth. It's no longer a hard conversation to have for us, right?
Yeah.
And so, but here's a tool, right? Here's a tool where you can go through it on your own. You can go through it with a group. The preferred method to go through this is with a group, and a group of people who don't look like you.
Yeah, that's huge, man. So one, I like to, thank you for taking that on and taking this topic on, man, and just the courage, man. I was super proud, man. I was super proud, big bro, watching you deliver this talk and land the hammer down on it, but also doing the work on the back end to make sure people can be, inspired and equipped to do this and do this well. And to Melissa's point, she just made is that we're partners, right, to help you with those inner conversation lists that you have, that fear, that fear of the unknown, that false evidence appearing real of, I'm going to be exposed and this is going to be bad for my business. Well, truth be told, if you're hiding who you really are anyway, you're not actually being accountable to your business anyway. So either stand for something or fall for anything, right? And to me, it's I'm with her. Bandwagon reactions, they're old, because again, for me and you for the longest have been talking about, we lead from our values. If you really lead from your values and you really are ready to do what Jesus did, then you have to stand up and you have to put your action where your mouth is and really get out here and really be a model of what this is supposed to look like. Because right now we're having not only a humanity conversation, we're having a legacy conversation.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, everybody who has set the foundations in several layers of it at these organizations, don't know if they're getting old and they're leaving. And so all the things that you were saying about, well, this is the way we done it. This is the way, okay, who kept it going?
Yeah.
Who wasn't mature enough to say stop? Yeah. Who wasn't accountable enough? Who didn't have the courage to say stop? This is not right. This is the way we need to go, right? And so my thing is, guess what? Less than 1% served in uniformed services in the U.S. and less than 1% own the majority of the wealth in the country. It's interesting. So if the richest people are a minority and those in civil service are a minority, then it's pretty cool, pretty okay to be a minority. Dang, I am one. So for us, like you said, the conversation is easy. It's just a matter, are we going to come alongside people to help them with these conversations? And so I put my email in this talk. Kenston, tell them how they can get a hold of you, because people are going to need to access us for these conversations, because again, we want them to feel okay, right? And at the end of the day, we understand it's about feeling safe, not only in your own organization, but in your own skin, right? I'll empathize with you, right? Your skin is crawling trying to have this conversation by yourself. So that's why you invite people to us, to the party. So we can help you have these conversations, right? So how can they find you, bro?
So I want to do a couple things if we got time.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Let's do it.
So you can get in touch with me, Kenston, Kenston, at livewithlife.com. Again, that's Kenston at livewithlife.com. Get in touch with me, and I will send you the I can, I will, I must statement of commitment, so that way you can be better advocates for the human race. And so I want to go through those real quickly. And it just simply says, I can, I will, I must stand against racism. I can, I will, I must no longer be silent. You see, because inaudible advocacy feeds your bubbles of privilege and separates humanity instead of unifying it. I know that's a lot.
Run that back.
Inaudible advocacy feeds your bubbles of privilege and separates humanity instead of unifying it. We have got to get out of our bubbles. I will commit to calling out my family members, my co-workers, my boss, anybody who stands up for hate. I will no longer let hate dictate my decisions concerning others, and I will stop making I don't know what to do excuses.
Boom. That's huge, bro. Man, that's powerful. So as you're rewatching this replay, put a hashtag replay, and I will do the edits and add to the podcast. We're going to throw this up on YouTube and throw the links up everywhere, man, and cut up snippets of it so people can access you, can get in contact with me. And my sis, social action needs to be consistent as a part of community engagement. And one thing you threw out there is literally, we need to now step up and be advocates. We need to be advocates for these conversations, because our youngsters are coming up and they want to feel a part of something that feels like community. And we are literally ripping away the potential opportunities for them to experience community in a very authentic and safe way, because of the things that have been plaguing us for so long, because people haven't wanted to communicate and talk about it. So, bro, I appreciate you taking this time.
Hold on. One more thing. Don't cut it off. And so when I said that I will commit to calling out my family, friends, and whoever, I want to be specific to my white brothers and sisters. You got to get in the game. Like, I encourage you, I nudge you to get in the game in this fight against racism.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I truly, like, I can't call it out anymore. We need you to get in the game.
Yeah.
Because as we understand as professionals, speakers and trainers, when we teaching on diversity and inclusion, it's usually us.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I want to encourage my white brothers and sisters to get in the game, step out of your bubbles, and choose to run this race with us.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll piggyback on that. Don't thank me for my service if you haven't thanked me for my humanity.
It's good.
I'm the same person. I'm a soldier and a human. I'm a human first. All right. So all my veteran brothers and sisters out there, we can help them with this. We were a microcosm of what we see in society, and we put our lives on the line day after day overseas and come home. 22 veterans a day committing suicide, but they thanked us for our service. We can help them with these conversations. This is our new mission. If you wanted a new mission, this is our new mission. Help our world, help our society in America have these conversations. All right. That's how we continue to serve. That's how we continue to serve. All right, man. So appreciate you, bro. Hashtag replay. And we'll post this everywhere. So peace, love, be safe out there. Wear your mask, social distance. Peace.